We heard a lot of different things from our stakeholders. I would say that the predominant theme that we heard is that the priority for stakeholders, particularly in developing countries, is development. And we need to think about environmental sustainability in the broader context of development. That has a number of different aspects. One is that we need to pay more attention to accounting for environmental damages and environmental benefits and costs. We need to do a better job of thinking about the valuing ecosystems, valuing biodiversity, valuing environmental benefits. Another was the area of green development. This is something that, particularly in the wake of the attention to climate change, has become much more of a focus, and developing countries are asking, what are the growth paths? We want to grow, but we want to be able to make it clean. So are there growth paths that we can introduce that will allow us to avoid the mistakes that developed countries have made and to leapfrog into new dimensions and directions of growth? We also heard that the World Bank Environment Strategy should think about the consumption patterns in developed countries and how those affect the environment quality. We are encouraged by all of our stakeholders to look at the areas where there are co-benefits. There's a lot of attention being given now to climate change and what are the actions that would be needed either for climate change mitigation or adaptation. What we would like to do is take the energy that is surrounding the climate change agenda and make sure that we are maximizing attention to environmental issues that might not be at the forefront of climate change, but where actions for climate change would lead to substantial co-benefits in other important environmental areas. One of the things that we're hearing on safeguards is that we need to go beyond the do no harm approach and to try to maximize environmental benefits in all of the work that we do. There is also some feedback that it's time for us to modernize our safeguard policies. In the World Bank group, you have the World Bank, the IFC, and MIGA, and you have the same safeguard policies but different approaches to their implementation. And so we're now starting to look at how we can modernize the approach to implementing safeguards in the broader context of environmental management policies. An important area of feedback that came out of the consultations was that stakeholders would really like the bank to play an important role in knowledge sharing and facilitating knowledge exchanges. This is particularly true in the area of green development and this whole idea of leapfrogging into cleaner and greener development paths, where what they would like from the bank is information about what approaches are available, what has been done in either developed or developing countries that developing country clients can learn from. Another important area of feedback that we heard during the consultations was a request for the bank to build up in supporting capacity development and institutional development in client countries. Having strong institutions to be able to manage environmental dimensions, manage environmental externalities, should be at the forefront of the strategy for supporting sustainable development in developing countries. It relates to the knowledge sharing agenda. It also relates to engagement with other partner organizations. And there was a lot of feedback about the importance of working with civil society organizations, private and public sector partnerships, and a wider ranges of both governmental and non-governmental partnerships in both the capacity development and knowledge sharing area. The feedback that we got during the consultations from all sides, including senior bank management, is that we need to have a very rigorous and robust results framework, that we need to think much more carefully and in greater depth about what the indicators will be, what we will be monitoring, what our overall framework for results will be, how we'll measure the success of the implementation of this strategy during the next 10 years of the strategy period. A lot of questions we got were about the question of fossil fuels. Now, at the same time that we're doing an environment strategy, we're doing an energy strategy, and the energy strategy will articulate very clearly what the bank's approach will be on fossil fuels. But this is an area that we're paying very close attention to because of the amount of feedback that we got. The next steps are we are digesting and taking into account all the feedback that we got. In addition to feedback from the external consultations, we commissioned a number of background studies, so we're assessing the results that we've gotten out of those background studies, putting them all together and starting to draft the overall strategy. We'll be finishing the draft of the strategy fairly soon, and it will go to the Committee on Development Effectiveness of the World Bank's Executive Board in February or March of 2011. At that time, we will be able to go out with the full draft strategy and continue the consultations and get feedback on the draft itself.